Energy has secured 255 million rand in project finance. Paul Miller, Managing Director at Keaton, joins us now on the line. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us. First phase, of course, done away with. You looking at your second phase. You've now secured the money for this. You do have targets to get everything on the go by the end of this year.
Indeed. We're looking to complete the fundraising, the legal documents and the conditions precedent early in the new year, in fact. And to start delivering coal to Eskom in about May next year.
Paul, is this the extent of financing you need or funding you need at this point? Because, I mean, it hasn't been an easy road getting this funding, has it?
No, we've been spending our cash resources that we raised at the time of listing. And we actually did find, our project was robust enough to justify this funding. So this hasn't been a long time at all. We first spoke to the banks in September.
Looking at your Van Gautfontein coal reserve, news that it increased by 24% to 32.2 million tonnes. Of course, this is great news for projects going forward, and also the fact that you'll be getting more tonnage per month.
Well, the reason for that upgrade, that upgrade was a consequence of the technical work we had to do in preparation for raising project finance. Limited recourse project finance is amongst the most difficult to raise, and you have to make sure that your project absolutely stands up from a technical point of view.
Paul, tell us about the full potential of this deposit, Van Gautfontein. Are you also going to be looking at export capacity from this when it's fully on stream?
No, in phases 1 and 2, which we're talking about here, phase 1 is a specialist metallurgical coal from the 5 seam, which we'll sell domestically. Phase 2 is a coal contract into Eskom. We are looking at there's potential on the property for phases 3 and 4, but it's likely that this project will be a domestic orientated project.
Paul, let's touch on the cautionary, of course, that you renewed earlier this year in October. In fact, your view in terms of the interest that we see from international companies for coal reserves in South Africa and vice versa, that perhaps coal reserves are starting to become more South African owned?
Well, yeah, I can't really. I suppose one of the big constraints on the South African coal industry is to whether you have export capacity or export allocation or not. We've taken the view that we'd like to develop an integrated coal business across the domestic and export markets. Our first major project is a domestic project. I think a lot of foreigners would like to come and get a neatly packaged project or reserve that comes with export allocation, and there just aren't too many of those around. So perhaps that's why the domestic guys like ourselves are taking the front running on developing local deposits.
And do you think there's going to be more of this consolidation in the sector? Of course, we had Rio Tinto last week saying it was selling its local coal assets to Coal of Africa. Is consolidation something that Keaton Energy would be keen to participate in?
Certainly. I mean, economies of scale are very important. This is a hugely capital-intensive business. It's become regulatorily a lot more difficult in recent years, from an environmental point of view particularly. So you want to have options, you want to have multiple projects, you want to have access to capital and be able to apply it to the best project at the time. And you need scale to do that.
Paul, let's touch on prospecting rights and rights, of course, to various reserves. The Department of Mineral Resources is going ahead with reviewing a lot of the rights out there. How does this impact you, if at all?
No, we participated in the compliance review. We've had visits from officials from the DMR to all our projects. They've been very thorough and very assertive in their review, and we're thrilled with that. I mean, we are a company that plays by the rules, and the more people who have to, the better it is for us.
Of course, Paul, you said you're going to be focusing on the local market. How do you see domestic demand going forward from here? Of course, Eskom's still building coal-fired power stations, but that's something that's going to change going into the future.
Oh, I think there's a misconception out there that coal demand in South Africa is going to decline. It will not decline in absolute terms. The point is that coal as a proportion of our total energy mix might decline, but that's in the context of a dramatically increased amount of energy being produced. So with coal mines being declining assets and many coming to ends of their lives, and the absolute amount of coal being burnt remaining the same, there's definitely still opportunity for the likes of ourselves.
Any new projects you're looking at this stage?
No, we're reviewing projects all the time, and as your colleague said earlier, we are under cautionary, so I can't comment.